Welcome back to Goddess State, where we are creating divine realities and building global brands. I'm very excited about today's guest because she is actually a brand priestess. So we get to have a conversation about what it looks like to build the brand world. And I'm excited to introduce you to Naomi. So I would love for you to introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you and your mission here and what you're here to bring forward in the world.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited. So, I'm Naomi Olutayo, the Brand Priestess, and I am a brand strategist, spiritual doula, creative architect for spiritual women founders of product brands who are looking to align and launch in alignment with the vision that God has given them. So, these founders are typically in the beauty space, health, wellness, lifestyle, all of the above, and they're looking to expand their impact, not just in their companies, but also in their own personal brands.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I love that you mentioned God given talents. So do you believe in God? What role does God play in like your perspective on earth?
Yeah, so I grew up Christian. I'm a pastor's kid.
Ooh.
Pentecostal, African, very, very strict roots that I had. But I definitely have divested from the traditional uh, idea of God, and I've come to
hmm
understand Him. I put that in quotes because I don't believe He's necessarily a Him, but I understand Him as my creator, but also a reflection of me.
That's beautiful. And do you believe that everyone here has this sort of colorful brand world that they're here to build? Or do you think that like we all have different levels of what leadership that we're here to bring forward in our brands and in our missions?
Yeah, I definitely don't believe everybody is here to build a brand to that capacity. I believe it's a very specific calling. I know we all have the capacity to create, but creation doesn't have to look like business. It doesn't have to look like a painting. But the kind of brand work that I do with my clients it's very, very specific. I see it, there are two sides. You have people who were sent here for a purpose that encapsulates few. And that can look like whether it's like a personal brand that is meant for maybe just a few people. And I don't want to say few like it's insignificant, but they're here for people. And then there's a kind of brand builder who is here to not just for people, but they're here to build infrastructure. And that
Mm,
could come from a personal brand, that could come from a product line, that could come from real estate, whatever. But the infrastructure that they're creating is for the collective to be able to function on a higher frequency. So I don't believe everyone's
mm.
here to do that. I believe everyone's here to do, to some degree, something similar to the first batch, which it could be anything. I even believe influencing is teaching. It doesn't have to be public, you know? But definitely not everyone
Yeah.
is here for building infrastructure. That's a whole other path. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. For someone listening to this who was like, oh my God, yes, branding, I need to know how to build my brand, what qualities do you feel they would have to build a powerful brand?
Uh, the biggest one I'll say is self generation, meaning they are able to unenmesh themselves from the 3D world and stand firm in who they are and what they're seeing without needing validation, without needing proof, without needing um, world structures or accolades to tell them who and what they are. So their power is not sourced from anything but the source within them. And from there, you can do anything. That's the main thing that I will say that they need. And then, of course, there comes resolve, commitment, and conviction, which comes from being a self generative woman.
And I think that has a lot to do with having a very strong vision, which also has to do with eliminating distractions and making sure that you are tuned into that inner voice, that you always have that connection to source, because we're all connected to something higher, right? A higher power that's giving us our calling and our mission. And so for these people who are looking to build their brand worlds, where do they start? They're like, okay, I have a really strong mission. Let's say someone has this idea that they want to help women, but that's as far as they have gone in terms of like their vision creating. how would you help them? Like, how would you be like, okay, you want to help women? Well, let's get deeper. Let me help you dissect your magic and pull forth the brand world inside of you so that you can kind of bring that to the world and ground it into something tangible. I wanted to share that that's why I love branding so much, because brand is basically identity on a public level. So when you tell other people who you are, they can't tell you who you are. And that's why I love branding. So, yeah, how would you actually help someone brand themselves? If they just came to you and they're like, I want to help women, now what?
Um, Usually, I don't really work with people immediately off the bat for that reason, because I think, well, I know there is this space that needs to be honored between the full materialization of what you want to do and then you having the vision. That's the incubation period. And it's the equivalent to, like, if you want to bring it back to the Bible, when the Spirit hovered over the water of the deep. We don't know how long. I don't even think time existed at that point, but there was a point made that the Spirit of God was hovering. I believe when we're in that space where we're just saying, I want to build this, I want to help women, the first thing I would say is to let yourself hover over that, because that's how you build and that's how you gestate it. Because when you're a spiritual woman who is building something from that perspective, you're not doing things in a capitalist, patriarchal way. You are literally building the infrastructure and the foundation within you so it can last in your impact, even for generation in the physical plane, right? So before you express that, you have to let that become, like, as above, so below. When you let that just sit and you let that exist in pure potential, formless, without trying to extract from it too early, without trying to put it in a box before it's ready, just letting it exist in chaos and the expanse that it is, you'll find that your conviction of it and your belief and the strength of your sight for this vision becomes stronger. Because then it goes from, I want to help women, to, I am here to serve mothers of autistic children. You know what I mean? Or it might look
Yeah.
like, I am here to provide financially for teenagers who are in foster care. You know what I mean? Helping
Yeah.
women is so vague, and that's a beautiful thing. But until you can get to a point where you're ready to name and bring name to something, naming has always been important. That's why the names we give our businesses, our kids, our animals, everything is so important. So until you can give name and say, this is what this is, and this is what the name is, you can identify it, call it, and let people communicate that back to you. Until you get to that point, just letting, just let the vision exist without form.
Yeah. Ooh, so many gems there. Thank you so much for sharing that. One of them that I would also like to piggyback off of is basically when when you're in that incubation period, be able to you might not have a clear vision just yet. And I'm thinking about myself and like how long it took me to actually put a name to something, and how I was literally just an astrologer for so long and just studying the stars and not really having anything further to my business other than just, I help you read the stars, I help you with your birth chart, right? And it was when I set the intention, I'm going to create a business. When I set that intention, then everything started unfolding. Then all of the signs popped up in my reality of what the business should be. So I think there's something to that, to say, like, set an intention to start a business, because then with that intention, you'll have things come to you, and then all the pieces will come together as well. Like, then I realized there were things from my childhood that I could really help with. Like, I grew up in with a single mother, and then I grew up with like narcissistic abuse, and then I was like, oh my god, because I've had all these experiences, I'm really here to help women reclaim their power from feeling like they're unworthy. And thus was created Goddess State. Let me remind you of your divinity, and everything gets a little bit clearer when you also take seeds from your past as well. You were talking about why the name of something is so important. Can you elaborate on that and why that is? Names of your businesses, names of your products, names of your offerings, names of your children. Why is that so important?
Yeah. Naming speaks to the most physical thing that we have. It is the thing that makes anything exist on this physical plane. So, you know how, like, sometimes scientists say, like, oh, we discovered a new fish in the Atlantic Ocean and we never knew it existed, right? But they've always been there. So it wasn't until we became aware, we acknowledged it, and then gave it a name that it became a thing. Because unless a thing has a name, it can't spread. Because now it's just a fish, but there are several fish out there. But when we say it's not just a fish, but it's this fish that we found, now it exists. It has roots in this physical plane. So when it comes to naming, not only does it anchor us in this physical plane, it also speaks to who we are. It speaks to what we are and why we are.
Mm.
No, and when you're branding, people always say like, give your business a name that is good for SEO, that's good, like that's clever or whatever. And yes, on the surface, that's what it is. But also, when people speak your name, when people wear your name, when they have your name, let's say if you have a candle, if you have your name on your merch line that you have, if you have your name on the credits of your screen, it doesn't just give credence to what it's attached to, it gives credence to who you are. It speaks to who
Mm.
you are at such a primal level. Like, you wouldn't exist without your name. Legally, you wouldn't. In the spirit, you wouldn't either. So the name is an anchor, and that's very important. However you anchor yourself in this physical plane determines your experience here too. That's why I
Mm.
actually changed my name from Nay the Brand Strategist, which I had my name for like 3 years, to this past May, Naomi the Brand Priestess, because it spoke to the level of work that I'm doing and also who I am. Like, I am a priestess. That is the line of work that I'm here to do. Before, my name almost had like a stifled me in my expression, because the
Hmm.
name that you give and the name that you go by becomes the container through which you can express that identity. Your name is your identity in so many ways too.
Oh, I love that so much. I really truly believe that having a name or creating a new name or shifting your name midlife shifts your destiny. When I created Aura Vibin, I literally, like 6 months after I created that name, I had a huge spiritual awakening. Aura Vibin literally means energy vibrating. I had a huge spiritual awakening. My life completely changed. Everything changed. So, especially if you're going to claim that name, expect massive changes in your world to happen. Another thing I love about naming things is, you know, it kind of crafts your offer. So if you have like a name, like I created this mentorship called Diamond. And then from there, I'm like, well, what does that mean to embody that energy of diamond? Well, it means being built from pressure. It means you have so many different facets of yourself that you want to bring forward. And so also having a name can hold the level and multitude of what you're here to bring forward. Are there certain names that you've created for your offers that stand out to you that you'd like to share, just in terms of like why you chose those names and what they mean to you and how they're going to live and breathe in this world as the work, as the vehicle for the work that you're doing?
Yeah, actually, I went through a whole this past year. I went through a whole recalibration. So there is one offer. I think this one is I would consider my hero offer now. It's called the Vision Revelation Intensive. It used to be called the Vision Articulation Session. Um, that name change was important because, even just the most simple name session is like, a one off thing. But the intensive and then being about revelation, it's about exploring the vision that's within someone and allowing them to reveal it to them and to me so that I can bring it into form through strategy. You know what I mean? So it just kind of like it made me have to rise to the name, because before I wasn't rising. I rose to the level of name that I had for the offer before, but for this one, the standards were higher. And I found
Mm.
myself structuring out differently. I found myself going deeper and making more time and, just offering it accordingly to what the name is, Vision Revelation Intensive. Like,
Yeah.
that's the best way I can put it. But it definitely did change the way I just interacted with both myself as the strategist and the founders that I work with.
Yeah. And I think that that speaks to your strength to know when to pivot. You talked a lot about alignment and how important it is for people to be aligned.
Mhm.
How would you kind of coach someone into finding alignment if they have reached the cap of their potential? Like they have maximized this container that they've been in and they need something new to help usher in their growth. How could you kind of mirror back to them, hey, you're out of alignment here? What does that look like to be out of alignment versus in full alignment and flow?
Well, First, I would have to examine if that's what they want. I've learned from a lot of trial and error to give people what they want because to say
Mm,
I want to live in alignment means I want to die, basically. It means I want to restructure everything into its correct order, and that's death in spiritual terms. So first, I would have to make sure that that's what they want. If they want
mm,
growth or they want to maximize their, I guess, their potential, that's a whole separate thing that you can do without alignment. But if you want to live in your potential in alignment, that is a sacrifice in the simplest way I can put it. Um, After that, I would, the first thing I would mirror back to them is where they're leaking their power. Because alignment, you can you can interchange alignment with leaking power. Like where are you putting your energy that is leaking? Where are you giving your power away? Where are you submitting to systems, to
mm,
people, to institutions, to even things that you've built in your own life that may serve you in some degree, but completely contradict what you know that you're supposed to be building or living, or the standard of living business that you have already known, or God has shown you specifically, your guides, your ancestors, whoever have already shown you, you know? And then from there, um, I always try to. I always love when alignment is self-initiated first because it's such a touchy thing, right? Especially if you've gotten to the top of your game. If you've gotten to the top of your game in this world system, like you have all the degrees, you've gotten to billionaire status, you have the 10 million subscribers on YouTube, you built something that everyone wants and covets, and you most more than often than not have tied your identity and your worth to what you've accomplished. When you look at that and you realize how oftentimes empty that is, when you realize that there's not much going on in here, when you realize that you've traded things that are more valuable for this public perception, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, even for me, it's hard to see yourself. And that's grief. Like grief for the woman who got you where you were, and grief for the woman who didn't know any better, and then grief for all that you've built, and then you know that you have to walk away. And walking away doesn't have to look like I'm going to tear everything down and move to Cuba. You don't have to do all that. But what it looks like is being extremely realistic. It looks like being clear. Clarity will always bring false structures to its knees, always. And so, no, depending on how deep the structures were built in, whether it was falsity, it could have been improving yourself, it could have been even in just trying to get back at someone like out of spite. When you look at how deep those things are, and then you have to pull the rug from underneath it and make a complete 180, that's a huge commitment. And so, those are things I would mirror back to the person. Like, do you want this first and foremost? Are you ready for what this is required? And after that, I'm going to walk with you through that grief because, like I said, it's death. It really is.
yeah, that is exactly what I wanted to touch on with you. Wow. First of all, that is something that so many people need to hear. That what it comes down to is when you're on this journey of evolution, especially when you are building a brand and building something in the public eye, you have to die to yourself over and over again. You have to embody new identities. And so releasing parts of yourself at least, not the full thing. But again, it depends on like how false the structure was that you built upon in terms of like how much identity and ego death will happen. But if someone is kind of walking in their life and they've built, maybe a beautiful brand and now they're feeling misaligned, how would you facilitate that doula death, practice of being like, okay, this is a part of yourself that needs to go. We're going to facilitate that death now. How would you kind of walk someone into their new phase if they're kind of stuck in that liminal space of like, I can't leave this part of me behind? And it could be something as simple as like, well, I'm afraid to go live every week, but I know that that's what my business demands for my next level self. But they're in that liminal phase of being like, but then I won't be in comfort, and then I don't know who I'm going to become, and they're kind of circling through this level of imposter syndrome. What would you do to be like, no, girl, this is your new phase now. Your new self goes live. So how would you usher in that ceremony for the death of self?
Hmm. I would say for me, at that point, I would still be a bit hands off, mostly
Okay.
because that's such a it's such a weird place to be in. to be in between worlds in a sense. Like, you know that it's time to shift into alignment and you know what you're supposed to do. I think a lot of times people get stuck there because they try to replicate the same tendencies that kept them out of alignment in the first place. So I can't say I never recommend anyone to be around me during that time or to never get coached in that time. But personally, I believe that's the time for you to be real. And that's why I always talk about clarity. Because what do you want? And are you ready for it? Because if you're ready for it and you wanted it, your actions would follow. And at that point, if your actions are not following, I can't coach you and I can't give you any strategy. At that point, it's a decision. The decision is, do I want to build and live in alignment and let my life and my business and my relationships mirror this level of alignment, this vision that I've been shown since the beginning? Or do I feel more comfortable feeling a little bit productive thinking about it? Or do I feel productive weighing the options, which is not bad, and you should. But at that point, you, like, the point is for you to commit and to become convicted. And conviction says there can be nothing but. So if you aren't at the point where you say there can be nothing but what's aligned, and you're still in that in-between phase, you don't know what you want yet. You're still weighing the options. You're still, measuring the cost and finding what you can afford with your energy and your commitment. And that's fine. But that's where clarity has to reign supreme. You're in a space
Yeah.
where you don't know yet. And like, I always try to put emphasis on it. Like, when I say you're building an alignment, you're not just committing to making more money. There's a way to make more money, to have a great business out of alignment. Alignment is not the work for people who just want a good life. Alignment is for the people who want alignment. So do you want it? And if you do, and you're convicted, and you're saying there can be nothing but, then we wouldn't be having this back and forth. At that point, there's nothing I can do for you. I mean, you can watch my YouTube videos, I guess. Like, I created my channel for people like that in mind, right? The people who are still teetering in the middle, but at that point, it's up to you. I can't help you make a decision.
Yeah, I hear that. And I'm thinking about all the women that come to me as well for uh, trying to get out of that liminal phase. And what I have seen be the biggest block for them. So if anyone's listening to this, I would say there is some level of guilt and shame that you are holding on to about your ability to claim authorship of your life and to be that authority. And that guilt and shame doesn't belong to you. So it was either put into you in childhood from your parents. And so that takes subconscious rewiring. That's where all the subconscious reprogramming work comes in. It also has happened maybe with the people that you're currently surrounding yourself with who are creating bigger echoes in your mind than your own vision. So you're not closing off, you're not creating boundaries for these people. So they're kind of like infiltrating your destiny. So again, everything that we're saying is like, get very solid on what you want. Know that you have permission to believe in the things that you believe in, to believe in your vision so strongly, and that anything holding you back is likely these lower density emotions of guilt, fear, shame, which is simply a matter of elevating on the emotional scale frequency too. And you do that incrementally. So you go up from, shame to grief to apathy to boredom to neutrality. And you work through that by letting go of stories in your mind. Let go of the story of like, but I'm not an expert in the field and this person has 3 degrees. That's a story. You only need to be 2 steps ahead of someone to be 100% of value to them. And so these stories need to be unraveled to find out the truth, which is you came here for a mission. You came here to build a global brand and to stand in a very strong identity. So exactly what Naomi's saying, like having this ego death, unraveling to these identities, to these stories that you've been repeating in your mind that are keeping you small. The voice in your mind will make or break your reality and your destiny. So make sure that you take note of that. What are you saying first thing in the morning? What are you saying first thing when you go to sleep at night? These theta brainwave frequencies will change your life. That's how you change your subconscious mind and how you change your life is like right when you wake up in the morning, when you're programming your mind, are you saying, oh, another day of me being a terrible blah, and then it starts and then your life will never change because you keep telling yourself the same thing. And then right before you go to bed, oh, I'm in this terrible relationship. I have terrible people around me. And you go to bed thinking that. So you perpetuate this reality of not being able to kind of get out of that. Once you start realizing this is a mental game and reality is really an identity game of who you can embody daily to be this amazing creator self, then you realize there's no competition. And that's how you get into this world of like, oh, well, what am I here to build then? Because this is my reality and I'm the main character. And I wanted to talk to you about that. Like, this idea of how there's no competition. It's literally you versus you because nobody can bring in the message that you're here to bring in. What do you say to like people who are maybe in comparison mode or not realizing that the market is not saturated because nobody is you?
Yeah, especially when it comes to personal branding. It really is a mindset thing at that point because unless you are thinking to execute your strategy and you're through like copying someone or following other people's blueprints, then yeah, there's gonna be competition. They're probably gonna do it better than you because they made it. But if this thing that you're doing is you, I mean, there's no one like you. I mean, yeah, there are similarities. That's how you build your audience, but there's no one like you. And even if there was someone exactly like you, just a few small differences, that's variety. Like I always say, there's no such thing as competitors, just business neighbors. And when you have business
Mm-hmm.
neighbors, it's proof of a market. It's proof of people desiring what you have. If you think of TikTok, how many people do get ready with me? How many people cook? Everybody does. Literally everyone. Those are the most popular things. But we watch all of them anyways, right? It's not about what they're doing. It's about who they are and how they execute it. Some people have really unique ideas, and some people have really simple, repeatable ideas. But we just like their energy. What if your energy is just enough? What if the one thing that oops, what if the one thing that changes someone's perception of you is just your energy or how you speak, your background? And in that case, you don't need to be like the most original person. You don't need to be the first. You need to be the most authentic. You need to focus on resonance. I tell product founders all the time, the goal in the game is not to be original or the first. It's to be the one who has the most resonance. Can you be somebody who makes your audience, your customers, feel the deepest and feel the part of themselves that has been laying dormant? If you can do that, then it doesn't matter what everyone else is going and doing. It's about what you can do to touch that one person. And in that case, the way that you touch people is incomparable to everyone else because everyone does it differently. It's like Ariana Grande and Mariah Carey. I know they kind of existed in different decades, but their voice range, how great they are, very comparable. Their styles, similar, but there's space for both of them. You don't have to pick either or. It's just Ariana Grande, I listen to her for very specific reasons. I listen to Mariah Carey for very specific reasons. And those reasons are unique to them because that's their story, that's their energy, that's their life. So there's no competitors unless you want to be going like the tech bro space, which that's a separate story. But if you're not, there's no such thing as a competitor.
Yeah, I love this so much. I think this is going to inspire a lot of people. I recently just had a call with my Spotlight members, and there was a huge awakening in the group when we were talking about how sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is show up and breathe on camera. Because I was scrolling the other day, and as soon as you scroll, you have someone be like, "Hello, today we're talking about, oh, today we're gonna go do this. Oh, Mars is in Sagittarius," and you just keep scrolling, and it's always noise, noise, noise. And so I scrolled, and then a woman started off with,
Hmm.
and you, yes, she did actually stop my scroll because it was just a breath. And then I was like, wow, that's powerful to just breathe on camera when people are actually forgetting to tap into their breath. And so I remembered her for that. What would you say to someone who wants to stand out or kind of like add more uniqueness to their resonance online? I know, just to give you an idea, a lot of people talk about your brand being something that's actually not tied to your business. It's actually tied to your personal brand, your personal life. So the things that differentiate you that nobody can copy, like the fact that I have two cats, one is a black cat, one is a tuxedo cat. They're born 2 days apart. They're so cute, but they hate each other. That's like part of my personal brand, or whatever you decide to share. That's kind of like about your life. Like I'm a mother. I have a 2-year-old daughter. These things, what else would you share with people that they should bring forward in their brand to kind of differentiate them and their personal brand?
Um, I would say before you even go to that question, figure out what's true for you and who are you, because then naturally that will come out. Of course, you could tweak. Maybe your speech. You could tweak um, your appearance. I mean, one good thing I always say, if you have something that is uniquely identifiable to you, like it could be hoop earrings, it could be a lip color, a hair color. Like think Ice Spice and her red hair, or
Mm-hmm.
Nicki Minaj and just her whole kind of kawaii aesthetic back then in the early 2000s. Um, if you have something that's unique to you, that people can be like, oh yeah, that's her with the blue hair, or that's her with the short hair. You know what I mean? That's a
The
good thing.
Ariana Grande
Yeah,
ponytail.
ponytail. Exactly that. So I guess on a tactical level, I would suggest something like that. But on a more internal level, if you understand what's true for you, then people will start to pick up on who you are, as long as it's true. It doesn't have to be good either. It just has to be true. If you're a bad person, then stand on it. If you are somebody who loves to get dolled up, stand on it, and people will begin to
Mm.
connect the dots. Like those are the pieces of your universe, especially when it comes to personal branding. Those are the pieces of your universe that people come to recognize. Um, there is a creator, I forgot her name, but she has such a soft, calming voice. She doesn't like whisper anything, but it's just soft and it's calming. And I see it all the time. People are commenting about how soothing her voice is, and that's just her, right? But it's true. She's not pretending. And I know a few
Mm-hmm.
creators who put on a black scent, who pretend to be more Hispanic than they are, and they're really not Spanish at all, you know? And people recognize them for that too. But now the task is maintaining it. So when they inevitably switch, it's like, oh, we don't understand you anymore. So that's why I say find something that's true for you, and people will connect those dots with your identity, and you'll be able to be identifiable from that specifically.
Yeah, I think about Ariana Grande because she has been, labeled as that, like someone who takes on that black scent, right? But she has also taken on this like very intense, like preppy, like white girl accent now too, you know? So it's kind of funny to see her do these like massive evolutions in like the way she speaks. But I also see the opposite end of that of people being like, give her permission. She's literally a singer. She's gonna like vary in her voice or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that, like you said, if that's something that you're going to claim, you're going to have to stick by it, or else people will be a little bit confused as to what you're bringing forward in the world and who you really are.
Yeah.
And again, I think she has like Chiron and Leo, so there is that natural identity confusion, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's something that she has in her chart. But yeah, I love that idea of having a visual hook to showcase like, oh my gosh, she's the one who has like the beautiful, yeah, red hair, high ponytail. And also, yeah, I think Nara Smith is someone who like cooks in a very
hmm
soft voice. So she's known to do like these voiceover videos of food in a very elegant way. So it could also be the way that you just create content, which could be like, oh, it's her voiceover video again. Yeah, so a mixture of like visual hook, sound hook. You were talking about voice. I know this one woman who was like, as soon as I shifted into my brand voice, which was like 8 octaves lower, because she would talk like this and this would be her now, but then she's like, hi, today I'm going to talk, and everything changed for her because of this like resonance that we're talking about. Her
hmm
whole brand changed when she embodied that voice identity as well. And it could be something so simple as your font that you use. I know that Boss Babe has like this very bubbly font, and I always know when she pops up on my feed because she has claimed a certain font, certain colors. So, yeah, I love the certain color pink that I'm going for Goddess State. I love that pink so much. It's like a pink that I haven't seen. It's like this dark pink. And so, yeah, I would love for you to share what you view as embracing glory, because I saw one of your videos and you were talking about how important it is to surround yourself with people who see your divinity and who are not necessarily in competition with each other, and they don't get offended when, another person elevates or actualizes their dreams. Do you believe that? What do you think about that? About someone who's like having trouble embracing their glory, let's say?
I believe that if you have trouble embracing your glory, you most likely have religious trauma or witch wound. Sometimes both. So, glory to me, I mean, most people understand the word glory from God. Like, give God the glory. He is all glorious and everything. But glory really is just the concentrated expression, the concentrated, unadulterated expression of your creative life force energy. That is the presence of God. It is God's creative, unique imprint in you, expressed on this earth in complete alignment from the inside to the out. And so when you are a powerful woman, when you are a magnetic, beautiful, sexy, embodied woman, there's a lot of shame, right? There's so much shame because we're told that that's for our husbands. We're told that we're going to cause somebody to stumble. For women in friendships, it could be you're seen as a show off. You're stealing somebody's man. You know what I mean? It's the whole level of constriction on you. So when you step into your glory and you reclaim your glory and you recognize that you deserve to be worshipped also, when you deserve to have your glory mirrored back to you, that is you without shame. You standing in your glory is you without shame, without fear, without restriction. And it's scary because, again, it's not always safe to be a woman who is all those things. I mean, how many of us have been assaulted, molested, stolen from, our energy siphoned, treated horribly because of the energy that we have? But, so I mean, it's hard. That's what I'm trying to get. It's hard, right? But to stand in your glory at its core, it really is to just the shame of all those things, putting those aside, whatever has happened to you, and standing in what's true. And then at that point, you become like a full channel from our Creator to Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's full alignment, is like having all of this energy to channel through you and to bring that forward. Yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Was there anything else that you feel that people who are like, okay, I just watched this episode on branding and now they're at home, they have the vision, they have the embodied authority, magnetic identity, and now they're like, how the heck do I create content? Like, how am I going to actually create content online and start crafting out this vision so that people understand them? What would you share with them to like start creating content that makes sense and reaches their target client?
I always say this, but figure out what you want. Figure out what you want, and then craft and architect the experience. So once you know what you want from the content, it could be to get brand deals, it could even just be to serve, it could be maybe to get certain opportunities that you wouldn't have had without that kind of content. Figure it out and get to the root desire, not things you feel like you need to have, not what you're told you're supposed to want. Maybe you don't want 1 million subscribers. Maybe you want a community of 50 or a couple thousand. But whatever you want, make sure it's true, like unequivocally true. Because if you start wavering in what you want, then it's a little bit harder to maintain that alignment. And then when it comes to architecting your experience, how do you want it to go? How much or how little do you want to work? How do you want to feel when you're creating content? What do you want it to feel like? How easy do you want your workload to be? How easy do you want it to be able to speak? How much content do you want to create every single day or every single week? How do you desire your background to look? How do you desire your words to land? How do you want people to experience you, your energy, and your beauty? How do you want to exist in people's minds? What kind of reputation are you building for yourself? What's the end goal? Like for me, I know I'm starting another channel in a little bit, but one of my biggest inspirations has been Emma Chamberlain, because the way that she has transitioned from influencing to Hollywood is like so perfect. Like just her transition to being like a whole fashion creator in Hollywood, my favorite thing. So that's something that I think about. Like, I want to have a transition from internet stardom to Hollywood. Some other people might want to even, I don't know, go behind the scenes, and or maybe they want to start a brand, they want to start a specific business. Whatever it is, figure out the experience that you want to have, because then you can create aligned actions from the beginning. I know, I'm a projector, so
Ooh.
work for me has always been kind of weird because my energy levels are up and down. So I had to get real with myself and say, okay, I can't work in a way that other people do. But what works for me? I work maybe like 20 to 35 hours a week. Batch all my content, let's say like once a week. And I do that maybe once or twice a month. So that can be filming like 8 to 15 videos in one sitting instead of doing it
Wow.
consistently, right? So for me, that makes sense. But I would have never done that if I hadn't figured out how I wanted to experience my YouTube channel, how I wanted to experience my clients. And even for my clients, I don't take more than a handful of clients at a time for the year. I think the most I'll have at a time is maybe 4 or 5. Like I know for the work that I do and to the depth I want to take it, I can't take on a revolving door of clients. It would destroy my spirit and my health and my rest, and then I wouldn't be able to meet my clients at the depth that I want them to have and that they desire to have with me. And so all those things were architected in the beginning when I got real with myself and figured out what I wanted and how I want to experience this, and I don't waver from that. So I know that's kind of a little bit out sideways from it, but I always tell people to start from there. Like, what do you want to experience? Because whatever you can imagine and truly desire, it's true for you. So a lot of times we get caught up in like different tactics and things, but they will only work as what is true for you. As
Yeah.
long as you can architect those experiences and you move in alignment with it, then your content creation journey would be very simple,
Mm-hmm.
because it's what you want it to be, not what you think it's supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. Knowing your own energy and how you function is a huge part of it. And then to add to that as well, knowing what transformation you want to give people too
Mm-hmm.
kind of takes the lens off of you if you have that like, imposter syndrome or any weird energy blocks coming up. Think about them and think about, like you were saying, what type of energetic transfer do you want people to experience when they see you? Do you want them to walk away after watching a video being like, oh my God, I'm so inspired? Or do you want them to be like, oh my God, I just learned this new thing. I have to go dive into my birth chart, or I have to go read that book? Or like, do you want it to be educational? Do you want it to be like a transformative story that they're like, wow, I didn't know she went through that. Like, I have so much empathy. What is the feeling that you want other people to feel after they absorb your content? Like for me, I always want people to be elevated. I always want them to be higher consciousness. I always want them to walk away tapped into their divinity and tapped into the secrets of the universe. So as a result, I'm always posting like really deep, heavy topics, but people are always like, damn, I can't deny this reality. I can't deny this fact. Like I have to see this now. It's kind of like shocking truths where they can't be the same after seeing it. And so, yeah, just looking at like what transformation you want to walk away with. And yeah, is there anything that you feel on your journey has been the best advice that someone has ever given you that has stuck with you?
Hmm. I really haven't gotten the best advice in my lifetime. Let me think. Let me think. I don't know if this is advice that I was necessarily given, but I don't remember where I heard it from. But somebody said to believe yourself the first time,
Mm,
and it was very simple. But when it comes to making embodied decisions, when it comes to discerning what's right or aligned for you, I noticed that that would come up for me because it's so easy to just kind of like shoo something away, like an idea or maybe even like a warning almost, especially when you're aiming for alignment. So now, every single day, every moment of my day, I always make it a habit to believe myself the first time. And believing myself the first time meaning my intuition. Your intuition is
mm,
the compass that will guide you on every journey you're in, whether it's relationships business, just regular everyday life, where to live, who to work with, what to read, even when it comes down to like looking for resources, right? Believe yourself the first time. You had that thought, that intuitive nudge for a reason. It's not nonsensical. It's not just you being fearful. Believe yourself the first time. There's no one more trustworthy than you.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm hearing all the echoes of the women that I have been connected with, whether it be like in terms of business or personal, and I'm hearing them say, how can I trust myself when I have made the stupidest decisions that have led me into terrible realities? What would you tell those women who are like, my intuition has led me astray? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the tail end of a lot of stupid decisions like right now.
Okay.
So I understand. At that point where you're really just feeling the weight of everything, I would say it's normal to make mistakes. And intuition is a muscle that has to be worked. So if you were never
Mm.
taught to trust yourself, and also if you did not have a foundation that gave you a leg up in that direction, then what other decisions would you have made? Part of trusting yourself is being clear and seeing things accurately, right? Like, I know for me, I made a lot of really bad decisions, and I went through crazy, crazy, crazy things. And I remember just sitting in the midst of it, whether it was like through homelessness and abuse and all those things like that. And I was just like, well, how could I trust myself if I brought myself here again? How can I trust my word if my word brought me here? And to that, I say, your word brought you exactly to where it was supposed to bring you. Not in like a way of glorifying struggle, but your word may have been young, may have been uninformed. Your word may have been um, backed into a corner, and you trusted yourself to move forward anyways. And trusting yourself doesn't mean you're going to get everything correct. Sometimes it just leads you to where you need to be to build again. And for me, that was true. And so, for anyone who's really struggling with the painful consequences of their decisions, just know that they were just expensive lessons. And just because that you made a
Mm.
mistake before doesn't mean that your voice is not true today. It just means that you had to learn. I mean, I made mistakes in math growing up, but doesn't mean I'm not good at math. Even the best at something, they make mistakes, and that's just part of being human. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to listen. And you've been listening, and that's why you're even asking that question. So there is no
Yeah.
shame in a mistake. You just paid for a degree in something with your energy or whatever, but nothing ever goes to waste. There's no wasted time ever. There's only experiences that teach you something for hindsight.
Yeah, I completely agree. I have the J. Cole song, Fool Me Once, Shame on You.
Yeah.
Fool Me twice, shame on me. But then it's fool me three times, fuck the peace sign.
Yeah.
Load the chopper, let it rain on me. It's so funny. But no, yeah. And I think that there's something to be said too about revisiting the same mistakes. And for women who are like, I actually have made this mistake multiple times, there's a blind spot. There's always something to be seen and to be learned and to be, we're always spiraling higher and learning the lessons kind of in different angles because we will always have the same birth chart. We have a different birth chart throughout our lives. It's called the progress chart, but we're always going to go through these similar themes of our birth chart because we have something to learn at a very, very deep level. Like I'm always going to have Saturn in the seventh house, which means I'm always going to be going through these extremely deep lessons with relationships, with partnerships, with the law in these different ways. And so just to note, whatever mistakes you consistently revisit, you are here to kind of deepen into that mastery of, yeah, moving through those mistakes,
Mhm.
you know? And do you have what's the worst advice that you've ever been given?
The worst advice I've been given has been to slow down.
Ooh.
I've dealt with a lot of jealousy growing up, so I didn't realize it was that, but my dad specifically, I think he's my biggest hater at this point.
Oh
But
my God.
I remember when I started my first business, I got it registered, everything. I was 13, 14 years old. It was a hair care brand. I started teaching myself cosmetic chemistry. I would literally find the emails of like the top chemists in the country. I would find all the emails for because there's only about 3 or 4 schools that offer cosmetic chemistry degrees, I would find those professors and I would ask them, hey, why is my formula not working in this way? Why is this not doing it in that way? Or how can I make this better? I bought all the textbooks. Like I was showing strong evidence that I was for this. And I remember my dad sat me down and he was like, you're very zealous. And I was like, okay. And he was like, you're very zealous, but you need to slow down because you're putting the cart before the horse. Meaning like the cart can't drive if the horse is behind it, you know? And I was like, well, I know what I want to do. I feel extremely led to do this. I feel confident. My formulas are amazing. Everyone has had great results. I am literally 13 years old, studying
Wow.
grad school level um, subjects, and I'm excelling in it. And I have a lot of feedback. I've had people review everything, and like, this is really good. I've done all the branding myself. I've done the marketing myself. I've been going to events. And he was like, yeah, you need to slow down because if you don't slow down, you make mistakes. And when you make mistakes, you fail, and you can't fail. And I was like I knew it was wrong, but you know, when you're young, it's like, okay, well, maybe I am
Like
moving
that.
too fast. And, you
Mm.
know, I definitely didn't listen to him completely, but it definitely became a voice in the back of my head, almost like, you know, maybe I do need something else. You know, that's your dad, right? I just
Hmm.
it was this weird back and forth I went to like this obviously doesn't make any sense. I'm really smart. This is gonna work, and well, what is he saying that I'm not seeing? And that was a mistake. Just thinking that someone who did not have my best interests at heart knew better than what I knew, even as a kid. So that's the worst advice I ever got. I wish I just completely just disregarded it so I wouldn't have had this weird
Yeah.
back and forth in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that just is an ode to listen to yourself, listen to your intuition, listen to your inner voice. Sometimes it knows best, even above your parents,
Hmm.
unfortunately. And yeah, what can people expect working with you? What kind of transformation will they expect when they enter your world?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that they can expect is to fully reclaim, embody, and sit in their seat of authorship and creatorship. And it's from that seat that you'll be able to lead your product brand from alignment and also power. And that touches everything. It touches how you name your products, your business, everything. It touches how you deal with um, your team, your investors, other people you may collaborate with, and also just your customers and your audience as a personal brand. Um, and of course, that comes from a series of deaths and rebirths. So through learning yourself again and going through those ego deaths and reconstructing a foundation that's strong enough to have the entire weight of this vision resting on your shoulders. Like outside of all of that, you will just learn how to lead. That's the biggest transformation. The leadership that touches everything from an aligned place. So whether you're launching in learning to launch an alignment or already have a company and learning to realign the company to mirror the vision that God has given you, that leadership will stick with you and you'll pass that on to your kids. Like, this is something that it's like a complete transfiguration. It's not skills, it's a transfiguration of identity and soul. So those are the biggest transformations.
Yay. Amazing. And where can people find you if they want to connect?
Yeah, so the best place to find me if you want to interact with me specifically is on my threads at the Brand Priestess. But if you want to learn more of my methodologies, my frameworks, my principles, if you want to become activated and also be coached through this process of going through alignment, my YouTube channel at the Brand Priestess is the best place to go. I always tell everyone if you want to change the way you lead and see business and foundership, you need to be watching my YouTube videos at the Brand Priestess. And if you feel like my work is something that is very aligned with you, then I highly recommend joining my newsletter called Letters from My Living Room, where I send frequent letters as activations, transmissions, and just general wisdoms and revelations that I receive throughout the week so that you can receive them and grow as a founder in your journey of alignment. There's a secret group chat hidden in there, so if you look at the welcome
Ooh.
email, you'll be able to find it. I send a lot of voice notes through Telegram through the members who are on
Mm.
there. Just, different things that come to mind and also what I feel like I'm being led to share. So if you want closer proximity to me, it'll be the email newsletter and the group chat that you have to find in the email. So those are the best ways to keep up with me and to find.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Naomi, the Brand Priestess, everyone. That is like the most genius name ever, by the way.
Thank you.
Love that. Great branding. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of your beautiful gifts and your visions for the world. And yeah, thank you for being on Goddess Date.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you're welcome. We'll see you next week, Goddesses, for the next episode. Bye.
Bye.